apparently I am made up of all different kinds of things. There is a lot of variety in there. I am adopted, so I don't know who my biological family is. Hello, welcome to my channel. Today I wanted to share my Ancestry DNA results with you guys. Before I jump into it, I just want to say, if you don't want to hear me talk and you just want to know what the percentages are, I am going to put a bookmark down in the description box so you can skip to the end of the video and see that part if you want to, but please give it a thumbs up while you're at it. But without further ado, I'm going to jump right into it. I'm not sure how long this is going to be because apparently I am made up of all different kinds of things. There is a lot of variety in there. So I'm going to go through each one starting with the highest percentage and work my way down. And I did write down just a few things about each, country, region, whatever it is, just because I feel like it's important to know more than like the name of a place and where it's at. You need something to reference it in your mind. So I'm just going to go over a few things there. Ancestry does, for most regions that it gives you like this page that kind of goes over history, some facts about the area, things like that. So some of this is from there, some of it is just from the internet, Wikipedia, wherever I was looking. So anywho, I'm gonna jump right into it. I was very surprised by the results. Like I said, there's a lot of variety here, and I am adopted, by the way, so I don't know who my biological parents are, so that's one reason why I really have no idea about my ancestry or anything like that. So but I'll talk about that more at the end of the video. But and I do have notes in my computer, so that's what I'm referencing if you see me looking over. So we are going to start in lovely Africa, of course. My highest percentage is Nigeria. Nigeria, where you at? Okay, that is 25%. A few things about Nigeria. It is the most populated country in Africa. The largest city is Lagos, of course. The capital is actually Abuja. Lagos used to be the capital, but it switched to Abuja, I believe in the 90s is what it said. They do have over 250 ethnic groups in Nigeria. Overall, Africa is just very genetically diverse, so that's going to be like a common theme here. The three largest ethnic groups are and forgive me if I'm saying any of these incorrectly, I'm sure I probably will, but the Hausa in the north, the Yoruba in the west, and the Igbo in the east. Those are the three largest ethnic groups. Of course, I have to mention slavery. That was a big thing in Nigeria, just like it was in most West African countries. But thankfully, the transatlantic slave trade was outlawed in 1807. Current things about it, Wizkid, Burna Boy, if you're familiar with their music, that's where they're from. Love them. And then their cuisine is also very rich and very spicy, apparently, which makes sense because I love some spicy food. I need to see if I can find a good Nigerian place here in Dallas. Try that out. So that's Nigeria, 25%. And then moving on, I have Cameroon, Congo, and the Western Bantu peoples as my next highest one, and that is at 21%. So with this one, you'll see that it's kind of like a whole area type of thing. So I mean, first of all, when you're talking about, you know, ethnicities, they don't go by, you know, borders, man-made borders or anything like that. So with this one, basically 3,000 years ago, there was this mass migration from Cameroon, and the Bantu people from Cameroon basically went, some of them went east into like Kenya and Tanzania, and then some of them stayed like west and south, and basically went to like Angola, Namibia, stuff like that. So, and then of course the Congo is right there in the middle, so that was kind of a mixture of Eastern and Western Bantu people. So that's what this whole area is kind of made up of. Again, it's a very highly diverse ethnic area. Lots of different peoples in this area, but there is like a common ancestors that tie everyone together. So that's that area. All right, so moving on from Africa for just a little bit, we're gonna go over to Europe, because my next highest percentage is England and Northwestern Europe, which is 13% of my DNA. Now let's be honest here. A lot of African Americans have European DNA because of slavery. It is what it is. That's not always the reason, but you know, that's just the way things were back then, unfortunately. Which, one thing, I'm not gonna go down a rabbit hole of like race and all that, because that's a very complicated conversation. But one thing that always bothers me is certain ignorant people when they say, oh, you need to go back to your country. And it's like, actually, my ancestors have probably been in this country longer than yours. But yeah, that's all I'm gonna say about that. Moving on, so for this area, England and Northwestern Europe, since about 2500 BC, various tribes have settled the area, until the Roman Empire, of course. They came and took over everything basically. Once that empire declined, the Germanic tribes invaded, and then there were Vikings that settled some of the areas as well, and then eventually the British Empire took over. The British Empire had like one of the most powerful navies in the world, so that's one reason why at that time they were able to colonize so many places around the globe. So that's that area, 13% there for me. And then we're going to go back to Africa, and now we're at Ivory Coast and Ghana, which is 10% of my DNA. So, interesting thing about this, half of the world's cocoa is produced here. I had no idea. I love chocolate, and for some reason I always think of like South America, you know, Central South America, when I'm thinking about chocolate for some reason. But yeah, apparently they produce half of the world's cocoa there in Ivory Coast and Ghana. So that was pretty neat. And then Ghana actually used to be called Gold Coast. I have heard that name before. So these countries were named after their resources historically whenever they were colonized. So Ghana had gold, and then of course Ivory Coast had the ivory. So in 1957, when Ghana finally won its independence, they changed their name from Gold Coast to Ghana. So that's how that happened. And then next up, 8% is Mali. This one was very interesting as well. I mean, they all were to me. So historically, Mali was part of three powerful empires that basically controlled all of the trade, the trans-Saharan trade in Africa. And in 1300, it was the wealthiest country on earth. Like the wealthiest country on earth, period. I was reading some stories about how much gold the kings had, and apparently Mali means the place where the king lives. But it's just crazy some of the stuff I was reading. And then this is where Timbuktu is as well. I didn't realize that, but that was, you know, basically a center for education where everyone traveled to learn and read books and all those things. So Timbuktu is in Mali, for anyone who didn't know that. And then moving on, next up, 8%, we have Benin and Togo. So these two, so Benin borders Nigeria, so the people in Benin are most closely related to Nigerians, and then Togo borders Ghana, so they're mostly most closely related to Ghanaians, I think is what you would say. And then interesting fact here, it used to be the location of the Kingdom of Dahomey, I think is how you say it. And if you've seen the movie The Woman King, that's what it's based off, is that kingdom, where they had like the, you know, really elite Amazonian like women warriors there in that region. So that was pretty cool. And then next we're gonna move back to Europe, because 8% of my DNA is Scottish apparently. So Scotland is of course part of the United Kingdom, which includes England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. And it's kind of done this thing throughout history where it's like, does it want to be part of the UK? Does it not? Or I guess, you know, under English rule, I should say. And I kind of read about the UK government, and you know, it's kind of, they have like this central government, but then, you know, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland kind of have their own governments, but they can't do too much because they're not all the way independent. It was all very confusing, and my eyes were going cross-eyed honestly as I was reading it. But anyways, there's this thing of like, do they want to be independent? Do they not? Capital is Edinburgh, by the way. I wrote that down. And then Gordon Ramsay is from Scotland. Didn't know that. And then an interesting thing, in 1320 they had the first documented Declaration of Independence, again trying to get out of English rule. So that's that. And then right south of there is Wales, which is also part of the UK. But again, all these regions are ethnically diverse. They have very distinct DNA, so that's why it's, you know, not just one big area, it's separated. So for Wales, medieval history is like a very big thing there. They still have like over 600 castles in Wales. So that's very important. And then it's known as the land of song because singing is very important to the culture there as well. Alright, so last two, and these are just 1% each, but I mean, I feel like everything's important, so I wasn't going to skip over them. 1% for Senegal, and Senegal is actually where Gorée Island is located, and that was the largest slave trading center in Africa for a long time. I have seen this on TV before, and they have like a museum and a memorial there. Hopefully I can go visit it one day. But that's located in Senegal. And then something I thought was interesting, like present day, is that they do have like a 14-mile fishing zone that other countries breach pretty often, and they end up losing about 300,000 tons of fish each year to other countries illegally fishing in their zone. And I think they like impounded a Russian ship like several years ago because it kept, you know, illegally fishing in their zone. So and then the last 1% is the Khoisan, Aka, and Mbutu peoples. So these three are like some of the most ancient populations on Earth, like possibly the first humans on Earth were part of these populations. So the Aka and Ubuntu pygmy people are more so like towards the forest or jungle, I should probably say. But song is very important in both of those cultures. It's very complex, and so is dancing. And they have a very, I mean, all of these have a very traditional lifestyle, you know, very close relationship with nature, and still doing like the hunting and gathering and stuff like that. I thought it was really interesting. And then the Khoisan people are more so like towards the savannas, and this is in the same area as the Bantu peoples, but these people were actually in that area even before that big migration took place. So it's estimated that they were in this area 150,000 years ago. So that's why it's thought that they're probably the most ancient people on Earth. So pretty interesting stuff with them. I did watch several videos. There's lots of videos on YouTube and the internet about them, so you should check those out to learn more about that. But that is it. How many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 different ones. So, but like I always say, variety is the spice of life. And then just some things about Ancestry.com. They do update their estimates, you know, as more people get tested and they get more information, they will update things just in order to try to make it more accurate. Because of course nothing is going to be 100% with this stuff. So they do constantly try to update it to make it as close as possible. And then they have other features on here that I wanted to mention. So one of the features that they show on here, basically they can estimate what came from each parent. So they'll show you this little breakdown of like, you know, this is what you got from parent 1 versus this is what you got from parent 2. So that's kind of an interesting thing to look at to see, you know, the percentages there. And then they also show you your DNA matches. So you can actually, I mean, talk to figure out who you're related to on here. Now, like I mentioned earlier, I am adopted, so I don't know who my biological family is. I didn't really get on here for that, but you know, I'm open to finding that out. I have gotten matches, but they're like second cousin, third cousin, distant cousin, like stuff like that. And for me, it's just not, I don't want to have to dig into that and try to figure out, you know, how are we related basically, until I get a close match. Like if it was like a first cousin or mom, dad, brother, sister, aunt, uncle, something like that, then I would definitely, you know, be interested in pursuing that. But for now, when it's so distant, you know, I think I've had a couple of people probably message me and say, hey, how are we related? But I just haven't responded back because I don't want to go down a rabbit hole of trying to figure that out. I'd rather just wait and see if there's like a closer match that pops up. And I do plan on trying 23andMe as well, because there's different people depending on which one you use. So I'm going to try that too. But it does show you your DNA matches, not necessarily super close matches, but and then some of them actually share their location too, as you can see. So but yeah, that's something I'll hopefully dig more into later. I was adopted when I was a baby, so for me, my family is my family, like the one that adopted me. Even though my parents have both passed away, unfortunately, those were still my parents. So I wouldn't be looking for my biological family because I'm looking for like parents. Honestly, I'm more so interested in like my distant ancestry, because I just think that's interesting to be able to trace your roots like way back, you know, hundreds of years and things like that. So that's that. Put comments down below. Hope you guys found this interesting, and stay tuned. I'll be giving updates, and like I said, I do want to do the 23andMe to see, you know, what's the difference there, because I feel like the results might be different, but we'll see. And thanks so much for watching.